This is the Real Estate Marketing Podcast, where we teach you how to grow your real estate business. Whether you're a wholesaler, investor, or realtor, this podcast is for you. Hey, and welcome back to the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. I'm Austin Glanzer, and Adam this week, he actually had something come up that was super important with his family, so he is not with us in this episode. But nonetheless, we have a really great episode, I think, for my listeners, for you guys. We have Bill Bronchick and Leena Mayo on our episode. And Leena, she started GoHomeBuyersUnite.com, and Bill is the founder and CEO of Legalwiz.com. You've probably seen Legalwiz online. They are all over the place. CNBC, CNN, any major headline, he's been there. So I'm super excited to have you guys on our podcast. If you guys wouldn't mind saying hi and maybe giving a little intro to you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much, Austin. I am super excited to be offering a free resource to all of our buyers today. And, the market is challenged. We have, cost, inventory challenges. And so our platform is designed to help provide infrastructure and free resources to co-buyers. And so we'll be talking a little bit more in detail about, exactly what that means, but that's what our platform provides.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm excited to dive into what co-buying is and that resource. Bill, if you could just give a little intro about yourself as well.
Sure. Thanks for having us on, Austin. Bill Bronchick. I am an attorney with 30 years practice in real estate, been a real estate investor for 28 years in residential and commercial, and I put together a lot of creative deals. And when Leena and Mayo came to me with her idea with the co-home buying, I was immediately hooked, and I helped her, and I continue to help others put together deals and educate them as to what they don't know that they don't know about co-buying.
That's awesome. So could you guys just give me a 1,000-foot view of what co-buying is for our listeners? Because that's probably a new term.
Yeah, so I'll take the first pass at that. So right now we have a big, as I mentioned, challenge in the marketplace when it comes to inventory and cost. We've had a 48% increase in the cost of housing and only a 15% increase in income since 2011. And so what that means is that there is a lot of barriers to entry when it comes to first-time home buyers. And even for a lot of our 73 to 75 million member cohort for our millennial group who make less than $55K a year on average, that is a challenge for them. And what we want it to do is really just provide some of the basics, right? Like, co-buyer agreements, legal agreements to affect how they buy and protect their investment. And some of those, very key elements that are not available to the public for free elsewhere. So for us, it was a need. It was meeting a market need and doing it in a way that was free or very low cost. In our case, free. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really great. I think there are a lot of millennials out there, like you said, younger age people who are working full time, maybe make a decent income, but that income level just doesn't reach how much the home prices are. So when you're saying co-buying, I just want to make sure I'm getting my mind around this, and for our listeners too. This is when somebody who maybe isn't related to you, or you and a relative go in and buy a home.
Yeah, so Bill and I can talk about this a little bit together as a group, but if you can imagine, we have people who are, family members, love interest, coworkers, individuals who may even not have a primary relationship, but who may have the same focus and or mission when it comes to buying. Some people want to buy to live in a property together. Some people want to buy for investment purposes to, build passive income and or build a portfolio of real estate rental properties. Some people, like parents and grandparents, want to buy with their children and grandchildren to, really help them. And some people want to buy as a group for business purposes. Say they want to buy a storefront because they have a coffee shop or some other business. And so, they may buy and they may build an LLC. They may buy as individuals. They may buy as simply two people co-owning or wanting to co-buy a property. So depending on the mission and their goals, it could be any number of combinations. And Bill can talk a little bit about how we structure, or he would recommend some of those legal agreements that are really paramount to co-buying. People have been co-buying for years. I see people all the time. They're not married, they buy together. They're friends, they're neighbors, they're family. But it's very rare that you see those people entering into a solid legal agreement where they're thinking through, hey, what if things don't go well a year down the road? What if someone, God forbid, passes away? How do we prepare for these life events? And that's what smart investors do. And that's why we do the co-buying agreements.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think there's a lot of people who want to jump into business, and what happens is they start working and they actually kind of turn nothing into something, and then there is something that happens, and that's where the legal cases come in. So, Bill, can you talk a little bit about maybe how that could be structured, with co-buying, just like Leena just said there?
Right. So when two people co-buy a house together, they typically are co-owners. We call that tenants in common. So they each have a separate interest in the same property with the right to live there. But what if one person moves out? Or what if one person dies? Or what if one person loses their job or can't afford to put up money that's required for routine maintenance? How do you deal with these issues ahead of time rather than just winging it? So what we did was come up with some sample co-buyer agreements that'll deal with all the what ifs. And that's what attorneys are trained to do, is to figure out all the things that can go wrong that their clients never really thought of, and try to document as much as you can in an agreement to cover those contingencies.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to jump back real quick, just a little bit into like COVID-19 and the economic behavior that's been happening. Can you dive into like why co-buying?
So I really feel like this particular economic challenge that we're all experiencing now is very different than anything, obviously, we've ever been through before as a country. First of all, it's a government imposed shutdown that has really had a lot of impact on how we do business, right? So, going out and just walking through a home or a property is not happening. We have virtual tours, which is fine. We have virtual closing, which is also fine. But there's a lot of question in the marketplace right now. People are like uncertain. And so there's a lot of question about, is it a good time to buy? Should we hold off? Should we wait until things get better? And so I like to, in situations of uncertainty, look at the data. And what I see from very smart sources, which include Realtor.com, that has an army of research analysts working every week to provide updates, National Association of Realtors, Redfin, you name it. And where I see that they commonly come together as far as their predictions and forecasts are in a couple of areas. The first area is there is no doubt we have a challenge when it comes to inventory. Even though people are pulling back their listings, we've had, according to Realtor.com, 961,837, listings, active listings in June. They say that's down 27%. But when we look at the demand for housing, and this is pre-pandemic, right? Since then, we have had a 25% increase. So we have homes. We have less homes available on the market right now, but we don't really see that affecting a lot of the pricing. They predicted a 1 to 2% increase in the cost of housing during the second quarter of 2020, which just ended. And we see that's going to be increased, and they're usually right on target, about 1 to 3%. So what does that mean for people who want to buy property? Well, obviously there's criteria for picking where you want to live. Is it going to be in a place that will appreciate? Is it a smart, potential investment? I mean, every deal is different, but when and the timing of when to buy is very important. And when we see that we've had year over year increase in pricing, and we have a small window where there's still an increase, but it's a very slower rate during the last part of 2020 and early 21, I would say because of the inventory challenges, and if there's a window, and there is, where we may see a small amount of relief in cost and the price of housing and property, I would say now is the time to consider doing a purchase if you were waiting on the sidelines.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. And I didn't even realize all those stats in the market right now. And I'm sure for our listeners, that was like pretty eye opening. So okay, I'm going to put myself in the shoes. Let's say I am a millennial, because I am, and I was looking to buy my first home, right? And I was like, hey, this is really interesting to me. Should I call my friends and say, hey, do you want to go in on a house? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so we encourage them to come to our website and fill out our readiness assessment. Just talk to us. We don't gather any sensitive information, so we're not going to be asking for their social security number or any of that banking information. We just want to get to know their goals and talk to them. And then once we figure out what it is they want to do you want to buy with someone to lease and rent out? Do you want to buy with somebody to live in? You're tired of paying $1,200-$1,400 a month with a roommate. You'd rather just do the same thing and own the place. So we really want to get to know the person and their particular goals. But the first step is to reach out to us and let you know what we have available. Now, if you already have someone who you're thinking of buying with, we have the ability for people to go onto our website and get a free co-buyer agreement. That's one of the things that we're providing. So once they go to GoHomeBuyersUnite.com, they can absolutely get a free template for a co-buyer agreement.
Yeah, that's great. So I'll put that in the show notes for sure, because I want people to be able to do that. I think that this is a unique way to buy a home that a lot of younger people have not thought about. So, okay, now that I kind of understand, we're doing co-buying, I find somebody else to go in with me. Can you give an example of what this would actually look like?
There's many ways you could do this, and it depends on what the goals or limitations of the buyer who's looking for a co-buyer to buy with him. So maybe he doesn't have enough income, so he gets someone with more income to qualify for the loan. Maybe he doesn't have enough down payment, so he gets a co-buyer to put down some of the down payment. So there's a lot of reasons why someone would, do it, and depending on the type of arrangement, whether your co-buyer's putting up loan ability to qualify, the part of the down payment, both, or is going to live there or not going to live there and just sharing the appreciation of the property. There's so many variables involved that you really need to sit down and review with us how you're going to achieve the goal that you're trying to reach, and then we could fix the moving parts. So for example, it could be just two people on a property co-titled together. If one is not living there, maybe they want an LLC to own it so they don't have liability if someone like a guest gets injured. So there's a lot of logistical ways, but there would be a co-buyer agreement, and then there would be an assessment of how to take title to the property. If, for example, one person was living there and the other person was putting up all the money, maybe the person putting up all the money says, I want the title in my name, because if you flake out, then then I have to figure out a legal battle to get you off the property. So there's so many different variables. There's no cookie cutter way that you could really spell it out, and that's why we offer the service to help people figure out those variables.
So, I think there's a huge trend in the way that younger people are thinking about buying a house. I know for me personally, probably because of Bigger Pockets, their podcast, a lot of people are listening to them. It's like, okay, I don't want to buy a single family home. I want a house hack, right? Like everybody's thinking house hack, house hack. I was so into it a couple years ago. My first property was a house hack, and we liked it, so we did it again. And I'm currently house hacking with my wife. So everybody's into house hacking. Can you do this with buying a multi-unit?
Yeah, you could say, let's say you bought a duplex with two sides, so co-owned by two people and one lives in each side. Or maybe a fourplex where two of them live in two units and then they rent out the other two units. So there's so many creative ways that we can help structure the transaction to help people achieve the best possible scenario for their financial situation.
Or even like a small apartment building. Is that where you were going, Austin? Like something a little bit larger that has more of a commercial, format to it. Is that what you were thinking? Because there's endless opportunities for people to pull their resources together. And when it comes to co-buying, we know that no one wants to overextend themselves at the cost of their livelihood, right? We still want to be able to travel and go places and do things. We don't want all of our income to be put into a property, but we still want to live comfortably. And that's the extension of resources that co-buying provides.
Yeah, actually, you did bring up a good point there that I wasn't actually thinking about, but you got me thinking. Yeah, because I think after 4 units, I think you have to get a commercial
Right,
loan. Is that
right.
correct? So
That's
can
correct.
you do it on a commercial loan?
You can, but you're not going to enjoy some of the tax benefits of being an owner occupant in a property like you would in a single family up to four family. So it's definitely once you get to 5 units, it's commercial financing. Um, but it's a lot easier to finance up to 4 units or less because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are in that game. Once you get to 5 units, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae don't get into commercial loans until they're much bigger.
But it is a possibility. So if like,
Sure.
someone's living in an area that maybe a 10 unit isn't
Yeah.
as expensive, they could pull this off with a
Oh,
commercial.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
It's just that they couldn't deduct their mortgage interest as on a Schedule A like you could on a principal residence, and they wouldn't be exempt from capital gains if they went to sell it like a principal residence. So they basically be tenants
Gotcha.
in their own building.
Okay, gotcha. So could you guys maybe give an example of, somebody who could do this on a house hack basis, like 1 to 4 units?
Mhm. Yeah, so we have a network of lenders and agents that work with us that are familiar with co-buying. And in one of these scenarios, we have decided to share on our website what it would look like so people can actually see a deal. So in this particular example, which is on our website, we talk about the investment co-buying example of buying a fourplex in Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs and Fort Collins are two of the larger markets that we have from data seen as in the throes of appreciation. In this case, we have two options. Two people can buy and they can split the cost straight across for the purchase of this particular property, this duplex, fourplex, and then they can, rent it out short term and they would be, in a position of benefit when it comes to income on the other side of that. Option two, they can remodel it, they can furnish it, they can use it as a short-term rental, and they're looking at approximately $2,000 to $3,000 per month per person for cash flow. So there are a lot of these examples, and depending on how you structure them and how you use them and leverage the property to gain income, it could be quite lucrative depending on the market and the property.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really think that this could be a great way for somebody who's younger to get into investing, especially in that 1 to 4 range. It seems like to me, it's a great idea because you could co-buy it, you would get your own unit to live in, and then potentially even collect some rental income on it. So yeah, that sounds really great to me. So could we go into maybe some more like legal matters when it comes to this? Like, what are some protective measures you could take when you co-buy?
I could take that one, Austin. So the most important thing is to sit down with a professional who can assess your goals and come up with contingency plans for all the what ifs you never thought about. What if you're not able to rent it? Let's go to the fourplex example where you have two people living there, and then the two units rented out, and that was you were using that income from the other rentals to help pay the mortgage that you couldn't necessarily afford if those other units were vacant. So what happens if those units go vacant? What if there's an unnecessary repair? What if one partner can't come up with the money? Is there a mechanism in there so that the parties can work through it, or have a graceful exit from one or both of them to sell the property, refinance the property, or have someone buy out one of the partners?
Yeah, no, that's great. So, I guess the other thing too is when it comes to like going to settlement on this property,
Mhm.
and all like actually signing the papers, you would go with both of them, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody who's on the name, you would
If
go
if
all
both
would
were
sign
on
the
the
papers.
loan, right. If both were qualifying for the loan, it's possible that one person can have the down payment and the other one qualifies for the loan, and then one closes in the loan in their name, and then after closing, you can redeed the property so that it's both co-owned. That's one possibility. Or if they both are on the loan, and they both are on the title at closing.
Okay. And then, I've always been told in business you should always have an exit strategy.
Hmm.
So what are, if things go completely wrong or go well, what are some exit strategies people could do?
Sell, refi, or have a buyout. Either one partner buys the other one out or allows a third party to buy out one of the partners who's unable to perform.
Okay. And that would be written up. You guys would be able
Yes,
to write that up for them.
yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, because that to me, that's where I think things can get a little hairy in business. You go in on a venture, and it's just not really clear as to how the
Mhm.
buyout will work or how the refinance would work. So that would all be written up in basically the titlement and the agreement.
Exactly, exactly. And it's possible, two love interests live together, and then they split up, and then the one who moves out says, "I want to sell the property and get my half," and the other one says, "I don't." Then what?
Uh,
Then you have
yes.
to go to court. You have to go to court and start a lawsuit to get the court to force a sale, which is very expensive and time consuming.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking about in that scenario. So no, that's awesome that could be kind of laid out in the beginning before you go into it, because that could be, I see as one of the main concerns people have is, hey, what if this person I go in on with, is like, I hate real estate investing, I'm out. So that's great that could be laid out.
Austin, that's one of the, like, when I first decided that there was a need in the marketplace for a structured platform to provide free resources for co-buying, that was the number one question and concern. Wow, what will happen if somebody doesn't pay their share? Or how scary is it that we're going to make this kind of financial commitment with somebody who is not, a married partner? And I really took that to heart, and I said, what are the hesitations? Well, number one, it was that, right? What happens if somebody doesn't do the right thing or we don't have agreement? And number two, oh my, this is a longer term financial commitment. And what I did was obviously went out to very smart people like Bill to put together the component for the co-buying agreements. But the second part is that I really want to encourage people to examine that it is a financial commitment, but it can be for any period of time that works for that particular partnership. And I would submit that we're already entering into a partnership agreement for leases when we have a roommate. You're still responsible contractually for providing that payment every month for that particular part of that obligation that you have. So people are already doing that. They're just not getting any benefit or equity on the other side.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and that's awesome that you saw that there was a need and just went for it. I love it. So you already talked about this a little bit, but I'd like to repeat it. What are some ways people can get in touch with you if they're interested in this?
So for me, and I'll let Bill talk about his resources, but for me, they can visit us online at gohomebuyersunite.com. And there are plenty of ways to talk to us. They can get a free agreement, they can get a readiness assessment, or they can reach out to us and give us a call or an email. But gohomebuyersunite.com.
And my website is legalwiz, WIZ.com. And I offer lots of free resources, articles on this topic and other topics in real estate investing.
Yeah, that's great. I'll put both of those in the show notes with a little bit of detail about how they can get in touch with you. I personally think this episode was awesome because first of all, I love podcasts that just go straight into content, right? And I feel like we did that here. Like this is jam packed with great information for people, especially, the type of listeners I have. I just have a lot of younger listeners that are interested in real estate. And I think if you're out there driving close to work, listening to this right now, this is a great opportunity for you to get involved in real estate and get started. And, now that I'm thinking about it, I did a co-buy my first time with my wife. I just didn't think of it that way. So it's the only way I was able to get into real estate was the co-buy. So, thanks so much, guys, for coming on this episode. And I'm really excited for this to get released for everybody. And if you're out there listening, please get in touch with either Bill or Leena. And I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you,
Austin. Yeah. Have a good one.
Thanks so much. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. Please like and subscribe for more content like this. We'll see you later.